Okay, well, I want to welcome everyone to our October meeting or webinar. And first thing I want to remind everybody is please, if you have not done so already, complete the survey that David prepared to help him and Neil plan for next year. So it's in an email that Mary sent out. So if you haven't done that yet, please find that email and go ahead and complete the survey. Our next assignment is just going to be fall colors and activities due November 14th. And you don't have to, they don't have to be taken this month. They can be from 15 years ago. I don't care. You got some good photos, send them in. Try to limit it to 6 or less and send them to me. We've got the Smokies weekend coming up on November 5th through 7th. So if you've not registered for that and you want to, I would go ahead. I don't know how close they are to being full, but as far as I know, registration is still open. November is the last presentation I have scheduled, and it's going to be an intro or introduction to time-lapse photography. I have been chasing sunsets all over Southeast Georgia and trying to get one really good. So far I've been unsuccessful, but we'll see. So tonight's presentation is creating composite images, and David and Neil are co-hosting, and they will be watching for your questions in the chat room function. So if you have any that I can answer, just type it into the chat room and they will get it to me and I will try to answer it. So making a composite image. A composite image is an image created by taking parts of 2 or more images and combining them into one. Usually one image will serve as the background and parts of the other images will be added to it. And there's a little example there, and I'm going to be working with that later on to show you how it's done. Composite photography is not a cheating form of photography. It's a widely accepted form of art. And it can be joined in any subcategory of photography, such as nature, but you might want to be careful in nature, and if you do one, make sure you explain clearly that it is a composite photograph, or it can stand on its own as fine art. So I'll just show you some examples here of people who are much better at it than I am in what can be accomplished. So here's one with an elephant standing on a sand dune. The goal is to make it look natural, even though you know it's not, to make it look like, you know, it belongs there. And that requires blending and merging the layers together, the different parts of the photos. So you can see some of these are pretty dramatic. And like I said, they are all composite images. Nobody would try to pass these off as real, but they serve a purpose, and I enjoy them, and I think if you get into it, some of you might too. So let me close this and we'll continue on. There's different ways to approach making a composite image, and one is to plan it all out and then go out and take the images. I'm not that organized, so this is a different way. Go through all of your images and select the ones you want to use, or you can have a combination of 1 and 2. And the first example that I'm going to show you is actually a combination of those two. It was part taking images that I have and then part planning it out. As an example, the clouds here I'd taken several years ago, and the photo of my grandson on the edge of our fire pit picking out rocks I took with my iPhone. And it dawned on me after I'd taken the picture sometime later that, yeah, I could do something with that in a composite image. So I then took a picture of a little rug that he was going to be flying on and combined them all into one image. So creating your composite image can be done probably in more ways than I'm aware of, but I use Adobe Lightroom and Photoshop. I use Lightroom to make any adjustments to each photo, and then I use the edit in function to take them into Photoshop. And I know that some will ask if this can be done using only Photoshop. Yep, it can, but I'm not going to address that tonight. But just to answer that question in advance, yes, you can do it using Adobe Camera Raw and Lightroom and Photoshop. The process in Photoshop uses layers to build the image, and it's like painting, or if any of you have ever used an old overhead projector where you put the transparencies down on top of it, you know that you have the base layer, and then you could put another transparency on top of the first one and so forth. So same thing here, the base layer of paint is applied, and then more paint is applied on top of that. Or, like I said, the first transparency is put on, and then others with more information are placed on top of it. So you need to remember that the layers are stacked so that the top one will cover all of the layers that are below it. And if you remember that, then it can help you when you go to start blending them and so forth. So just to give you a quick example, here's my base layer, and here's the two parts that I'm going to add to it. So you add them to try to make it look like it's always been that way. And the basic process is simple, but like with anything else, the details sometimes can get a little bit tedious. The goal is to create a scene that looks like everything belongs there, even though your mind's telling you that's impossible. And blending the parts together is sometimes the hardest part of the process. So be careful and make sure you're on the correct layer before you start erasing anything. You can always, use Control Z to correct a mistake, but it's better just to make sure you're on the right layer before you start erasing. So we're going to see what it's like by doing a couple of these. And the first one is just going to be a little fun type image that I just call a boy and his pterodactyls. And the second one, if we have time, is a little more serious, that I call Temple of Sea. When we're done with all of this, anybody that wants it, I will provide a written step-by-step guide for how to go about this. So let's go ahead and get started. And let me close this. And I'll bring up Lightroom. So again, the photos that I'm going to use is this one of the clouds, this one of my grandson, this shot of a rug, and a picture of a pterodactyl that I took some time ago. So first thing I'm going to do is pull all of these into Photoshop. So I'm going to click on my clouds, and holding down the Control key, I'll click on my grandson, the rug, and the pterodactyl. Then I'll right click and say Edit in Photoshop. Not as layers or anything else, just Edit in Photoshop. And hopefully it will pull all four of those in there the way it's supposed to. And now we have them all in there. So the first thing that I want to do is make a layer copy of the background. And I don't know, let me just try to zoom in here. And you can see the background here. So what I'm going to do is hold down Control and press J. And now I have a layer of that same photo. So let me go shrink back out here now. So I've got a copy of this one. I'll go to my next one. I've got the background here. Again, Control J. I've got a layer made of that. Go to the rug, same thing, Control J. Helps if you press Control. And if you go into Photoshop instead of Lightroom, so Control J, there's my background layer over here, and finally the pterodactyl. And again, I have gone out of Photoshop. And Control J. Okay, so I have layers for all of these now, and what I want to do is start combining them. So the first thing that I need to do is bring my rug. I need to get that to where I can see all of it. And I need to isolate the rug from everything else in there. So there are several ways to do it. You can use select, and you can use color range, focus area, subject, or you could actually use the little lasso tool over here. But I'm going to use subject because that works the best in these photos. So it has found the subject. You can see the little marching ants around the rug, okay? And what I'm going to do now is tell it to select and mask. I want you to watch what happens here. So now I have the rug selected. What I want to do is get rid of everything around the rug and just leave the rug. So I'm going to make sure I'm on layer 1. I'm going to go down to this little symbol that kind of looks like the Japanese flag. It says add layer mask. So I click on that, and there is my rug. Now I still have the background active down here. So the little eyeball here can turn that background off. So I will click on that, and here is my rug. The only problem is there's some shadows under here that I really don't like, and there's a tag sticking up back here. So let me zoom in some, and I'm going to take my brush and make sure that I'm on the black square down here. You can change from white to black. So I'll make sure I'm on the black. And I'm just going to lightly paint. And I'm not going to take my time here because I want to get through all of this. Hold down the space bar and move it over. Continue erasing the shadow. Back here, there's a little white tag. I want to get rid of a few shadows over here. Okay, so there is my rug. I'm done with that one. And the next thing that I would want to add would be my grandson. So again, I'm going to make sure I'm on layer 1, and I'm going to select subject. And you can see the marching ants around my grandson here. And they got most of them, but they left out a little part of his shoe over here, but that's okay. We'll make sure that that gets added. So again, while I'm clicked on the layer, I'm going to go down to the little Japanese flag, add a layer mask. And now I'm going to turn off the background layer. So here's my grandson. Now, there's a part of his shoe missing here that I want to get in there. So this time, using the brush, I'm going to switch to the white square. I'm going to use the bracket key to shrink my brush down a little bit and just paint in here to get the rest of his shoe. Now, there's also some shadows here that I could get rid of, but for the sake of time, I'm not going to bother with it right now. So I've got the rug. That'll go on the clouds first. I've got my grandson. That will go on the clouds on top of the rug. And then finally, I have my pterodactyls. So I want to select the subject. So I've got him selected, and I will go down and create a mask. And if I turn off the background, there's my pterodactyl. So I've got all 3 of these images now selected and masked so that I can begin adding them to the photo of the clouds. So the first thing I'm going to do is go up to Window and Arrange, and I'm going to click Tile All Photos Vertically. So I want you to watch the screen. You'll see how they have all being shown now. So now it's a simple matter of moving these parts of photos over into the main photo. And the way I will do that is come up here and click on my Move tool. And remember, I want the rug down first because the boy is going to be on top of the rug. So the rug's got to go on first. So I'll click down and hold it. Didn't get it. So I've got my rug over here. I can actually go ahead now and close this. I don't need the photo of the rug anymore because I've got it over in the cloud photo. And I don't want to save changes to it because I may want to use it again for something. Now I'm ready to place the boy on top of the rug. So I will click on him. Oops. Drag him over. And he's there. So now I'll close this one. I don't want to save changes to him either. He is a little bit small compared to the rug, so I need to make him a little bigger. And I need to move him up where his hand is kind of hanging over the edge of the photo or of the rug. And I also need to tilt him a little bit so that it doesn't look like he's about to fall off.
Art?
Yeah.
Can you make your Photoshop screen a little bigger?
I sure can, yes.
We've got some folks who are on small monitors.
Okay. That better?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Now, if I want to move this rug, if you can see over here, and let me do my zoom again. If you can see over here, I'm clicked on the boy and not on the rug. So what I'm going to have to do is let me zoom back out and had no clue where this came from. Okay. So if I want to move the rug, then I have to come over here and click on that layer. And now I can move the rug around wherever I want to. So that looks fairly realistic. His hand is kind of draping over the side and his other hand is on the rug. So we're good to go there. So all I need now is a couple of pterodactyls flying around in there. So again, I'm going to go up to my move tool, click on that, come over and click on the pterodactyl and bring him over. Now, as you can see, the pterodactyl is way too small, so let me just make him a little bit bigger. And there's a problem here because his wing really shouldn't be on top of the rug. I want it to appear like the pterodactyl is behind him. So I will come up here and click on the layer. And I'm going to again take my brush and increase it in size a little bit using the bracket key. And I'm going to erase this wing to where it looks like he is behind the rug. So if I want to do another pterodactyl, I will pull him over here again, put him in here. Increase his size a little bit. And again, I'm going to do the same thing and use my brush to erase his wing on top of the rug to where it looks like it is underneath the rug. And there is the composite image. So I can go up here and close this one so that now you can see this a little bit better, make it a little bit larger. And like I said, I went through here very quickly. As you can see, I did not get the wing completely erased here the way it should be. So do a little touch up there. And now we've got our pterodactyl, or two pterodactyls flying along with the boy on the magic carpet. And that's a very quick down and dirty of how you combine them. But if I wanted to keep this now, what I would do is turn off my original background to where I've only got the layer. And then I would come up to layer, flatten image, and all of these layers will go away. Now, once you do this, then you're not going to be able to go back and change it if you leave this photo. So I'll flatten the image, discard the hidden layers, and there's my image. So you'll notice that this pterodactyl has a chopped off wing. What if I wanted to go back and do that? I'm still on the image. So if I hit Control Z, I'll get that undone. And this was layer 4. So what I can do now is come and take my clone tool and enlarge it just a little bit. And this is not going to be a very pretty job, but just try to show you that you can. Whoops. And not going to let me do it. I don't believe. No.
All right.
Yeah,
One of the participants suggested that maybe it's the mask that's preventing you from doing that.
it is, but I clicked on the actual photo and,
Okay.
over here, and it still won't let me do it. So that is something that I should have done in the beginning. And, before I brought this into the composite photo. So no problem. Like I said, I'm not trying to do a real professional job here, but just to show you the possibilities of what you can do with these layers and so forth in creating a composite image. What I really want to do is go now to another set of photos and show you a little bit different type of.
May I ask a question before you move on?
Yeah.
Could you have handled those overlaps with the pterodactyl wings by simply moving the pterodactyl to a different layer and they're changing their position in the stack?
Yeah, you can do that.
Yeah. Okay.
Over here, you can move any of these layers you want to different order. Okay, so let me flatten this image and discard the hidden layers, and I'm going to discard it, not save it, but if you wanted to save it, you would just go to File, Save, and it would save it right back to Lightroom. So I'll close this. Nope, don't want to keep them. And we go back into Lightroom here. And the images I'm going to use now are this one and this one. Not a very compatible looking couple of photographs, but we will see what we can do. So again, I'm going to select these two with Control, click on them, right click, and edit in Photoshop. Okay, so here are my photos in Photoshop, and right now it looks like I would only have two images to work with, or two layers to work with, which that's going to change. So let me go ahead and on my background, which the shot of the Roanoke Sound is going to be the background. So I'll do a Control J and make a layer for that one. I will go to the other photo, Control J, and make a background or layer of that one also. So this is the first photo, and this is going to be my background. So I want to do a little bit of work on it first. And the first thing I want to do is try to get rid of these trees over here. So I'm just going to use my clone tool, clone stamp, and adjust the size of it with the bracket key. And I'll hold down Alt to select where I want the sample to be taken from. And I will just paint these trees out of the way. And then there's a few over here. I'll get rid of these also. And that takes care of that. So, as you can imagine, after seeing this, you know what I'm going to do. I'm going to try to place this in the ocean there and make it look like it belongs. But with this sunset here, I think it needs some sun rays coming up from back here just to make it maybe a little bit more dramatic. So what I will do is I'll go up here to Filter and go down to Skylum Software, which is Luminar 4. Now, I'll just give you warning, Luminar is slow to respond compared to the other applications here. So we're going to have to wait for Luminar to decide it's going to accept this photo and bring up the screen. And that's what we're looking at now is the Luminar screen waiting for the photo to come into it. Okay, so here's my photo from Photoshop is now in Luminar. And I want to add some sun rays coming up back here. So I'm going to go to my Creative tab over here, click on it, and go to Sun Rays. And the first thing I want to do is place the sun center. So when I click on this, it shows me a little dot here. And if I hover over it, I can move it. I'm going to bring it right down to where the sun actually set. Maybe pull it down just a little bit. Leave it there. And now I'll add some sun rays like that and tell it I am done and apply. Now what this is going to do, you'll see as soon as Luminar is done exporting here, it's going to send it back to Lightroom as a layer. Okay? That's supposed to send it back as a layer. For some reason, it did not. Okay. Okay, I'm going to have to do that again then. I'll go to Filter, Skylum Software, Luminar 4. And I may have gotten impatient and closed Luminar too quickly. We'll see. I do love Luminar, but it is a little slower than the other programs, so you just have to kind of bear with it. Okay, I'm going to again click on Creative. I'm going to add sun rays. I'm going to place the sun center. And I'm going to add some sun rays. I'm going to tell it I am done. I'm going to tell it to apply. And again, it did not send it where it's supposed to send it. Okay. We'll try one other thing. I'll click on the original background, try Luminar 4, and see if we'll add a layer that way. For some reason, it is not sending my my layer back to me after I create it. So again, I'll click on the Creative tab, Sun Rays, place the sun center, add some sun rays, tell it I'm done, and tell it to apply. Okay, that's not working. And it did today, so we will just do it without the sun rays. Some of you may have figured out by now, I am not an expert in Photoshop. It's kind of like riding on a airplane across country. I know how to fasten my seatbelt and put my tray table in the upright and locked position. Scotty's up front flying the airplane. He's the expert. So that's kind of the difference between me and an expert in Photoshop. So I'll go to this one and I'm going to select the subject. And it has selected the subject, so I'll click on my little Japanese flag here to add a background. And now I'm going to turn off the background. And you can see where it missed some of the structure here, and it captured a tree back here that I don't really want. So I will use my brush, and it's on black. So I'll increase the size of my brush a little bit. Oops. I click on white to make this background visible.
All right, while you're doing that, is there a way to change the sensitivity of the subject select in
Of the what?
Is there a way to change how sensitive Photoshop is when you select a subject? Or do you just have to deal with whatever it picks?
I'm sure there is, David, but for me, it works well enough. I've not usually had any problems with
Yeah.
it.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. So I've got some trees over here that I don't want. So I'm going to go to black over here and paint those trees out. So now for the most part, I've just got my temple, but the only problem with it, there's some names on here that whoever's buried here probably wouldn't appreciate me posting this all over the place. So I want to get rid of those. So I'll use my clone tool. And again, I'm not going to try to make this a totally professional appearance. I just want to get rid of the letters. So I'll use this as my sample area. And I can take the healing brush here and kind of clean that up a little bit. Hey, there's some more names down here. I'll do the same thing here right quick with the clone brush again, or with the clone tool, and just kind of paint these over. Okay, so got rid of the names. And as long as I'm going to put the temple out there, I really think I would like to have the sun shining through the doors here. So again, I'm going to take my brush and see if I can get rid of these doors. Oops, on the wrong. I've got to be on the layer and I was on the photo. So let me do a Control Z and get rid of those. Now I'll go over here to the layer and see if I can get rid of those and make them transparent. And again, if I were going to be selling this like a $3 million potato, I would be taking a lot more time with it, but I'm not, so that will have to do. All right. So I've got my ocean, I've got my temple. What I want to do now is combine the two, so I will go up to arrange and tile these vertically. I'll take my move tool and click on the temple here and bring it over into my other photo. So I can close the temple photo now, and I don't want to save the changes because I'll use it again somewhere. And I want to resize this some, shrink it down some, pull it over here. And you can change the size however you want. So I've got my temple here, but it looks like it's just been copied and pasted in there. So I'll see what I can do here as far as trying to make this look a little more realistic. So I'm going to submerge part of the temple. And again, I picked the wrong one. Don't want it at 100%. So I want my brush opacity to be set down around maybe 30%. And I'm just going to paint this some. To let the ocean flow through. Now, what would really be neat, but I have not gotten one yet, is maybe like an old pier or a brick pathway or something that I could put in here leading out to the temple. That would, to me, make it a little better. I can still move it. Okay, and as you see, it looks a little bit more realistic now. I really wish I could have gotten the sun rays in. But by erasing part of this, it kind of gives it the impression that maybe it's underneath the water a little bit, and you can just kind of see part of it through the water. Let's see. There's one other thing I can do here, and I'm going to try it. I guess that's not where I want it. So what I'm going to do now is just go to layer and flatten this image. And I want to try one more time, even though this is backwards, to put the sun rays in. So I'm going to try Luminar one more time. The only problem with this now, when I do this, the sun rays are going to be the top layer. So they're going to be on top of not only the ocean, but the temple itself. So if this works, I can show you how we can deal with that. Okay, so I'll go to Creative, Sun Rays, place the sun center, pull it right down in the middle of the temple, and add some sun rays. So I'll tell it now that I am done. And I want to apply it, and hopefully this time it will send it back to Lightroom the way it is, or to Photoshop the way it is supposed to. No. I'm not sure what's going on here with my Luminar, but for some reason it is not cooperating, and it's not sending my sun rays back the way it is supposed to. So let's see. Okay, so I'm not going to be able to show you that tonight. I'm sorry, but my software has decided it's just not going to work on me. And anyway, what I would want to do now is just make a few adjustments to the image. And that's the end results. Could it be a lot better? Yeah, it could be. Usually when I'm working on these, I will spend sometimes several days working on them. I won't flatten the image, but I will save it, and that way I can go back in and open all of the layers up and work on them some more. But tonight I just wanted to give you an introduction on what you can do with this and how you can create the composite images. So I hope I've done that, and what I'm going to do now is close my Photoshop and so forth, and see if you have any questions that that I can answer. So, anybody have any questions for me? Hey, we got a lot of attendees and no questions. Well, okay. If you do have any questions, I think all of you have my email. If you would like a copy of the step-by-step process for this, just send me an email, contact me with a message on Facebook, or whatever you want, and I'll be glad to provide that to you. So if no one has any other questions, then I guess we're done. David, you or Neil have any announcements you want to make before we get away?
Only that we've got about 35 responses to the survey, and we're going to start crunching numbers and hope to have some ideas in the next few weeks.
Okay.
And we'll go from there.
All right, super. So again, guys, if you're in the Griffin chapter and you have not responded to the survey, if you would please go back and find Mary's email with a link to the survey and go in and fill that out, because that is what we use to determine what we're going to do in the coming year. And we want to do it for you, so we need your input. Anything else? Okay, then I guess that is a wrap. And I thank everybody for joining us. And again, if you think of questions later on, shoot me an email, send me a message on Facebook, something like that. Just get it to me and I will try to answer it. So thanks so much, everybody. Have a great evening and thank you for coming out.